Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to speak with you today on a topic that sounds almost like a contradiction: respecting yourself by denying yourself. We live in a time when the world teaches us that the highest form of self-respect is found in self-expression, self-fulfillment, and self-indulgence. That's the lie. The world will say, follow your heart, as if the heart is some noble compass that will never lead you astray. But Scripture teaches otherwise. The heart is deceitful, it lies, it flatters, it deceives you into thinking that your desires are always right simply because you feel them deeply. But feelings don't define truth. Emotions aren't the measure of righteousness. Now listen closely. True self-respect begins where self-control begins. You cannot respect yourself if you are ruled by your impulse. You may say you love yourself, but if you continue to feed sin, compromise integrity, and walk in rebellion to what you know is right, you are not showing yourself love. You are enslaving yourself. Think of a person who gives in to every craving, every temptation, every thought that crosses their mind. Is that person free? Are they respected, even by themselves? Or are they weak, bound by the very desires they refuse to question? A person without self-control is like a city with broken walls, defenseless, vulnerable, easily conquered. You say, but I have rights. I should do what I want. Yes, you have rights. You have the right to destroy yourself if that's your aim. But if you are called to something higher, if you were made not just to exist, but to live with purpose and holiness, then you must deny yourself. You must take those desires, those fleeting urges, and you must bring them to the altar of truth. You must say, not my will, but yours be done. That's not weakness, that's strength. Self-control is not about becoming emotionless or robotic. It's about reining in the passions that war against your soul. It's about knowing that not every thought deserves a voice, not every craving deserves to be fed, and not every feeling deserves to be obeyed. You don't gain freedom by obeying your desires. You gain freedom by mastering them. Do you know what real strength looks like? It's not the loud, boastful man who does what he wants. It's the quiet man who trembles before God and refuses to compromise. The man who walks away from the crowd because the crowd is going the wrong way. The woman who says no when the whole world says yes. These are the strong ones. These are the people who have learned to respect themselves by denying themselves. You were not made to be ruled by the flesh. You were not made to be a slave to your urges. You were made to be holy, to be whole, to be transformed into the image of something greater than you. That path, the path of transformation, begins with self-denial. You look in the mirror and you say, I love you too much to let you destroy yourself. I respect you too much to let you chase things that will break you. That is the beginning of dignity. And yes, self-denial hurts. It goes against the grain of our nature. It feels like dying because in many ways it is. It's the dying of pride, of selfishness, of lust, of ego. But what comes through that death? Life, real life, abundant life, a clean conscience, a soul that can sleep in peace, a heart that is no longer tossed around by every wave of emotion. Young people, you are being told to live your truth. But let me ask you, what if your truth is a lie? What if the desires you cherish today will destroy you tomorrow? Who will pay the price then? Will the world that applauded your rebellion be there to comfort you? No, they will move on, and you will be left with the scars. Don't buy what they're selling. Don't drink the poison, because the cup is shiny. Test every desire. Measure it against what is holy. And if it doesn't line up, throw it out. To respect yourself, you must fear God more than you fear missing out. You must love righteousness more than you love comfort. You must be willing to stand alone if that is what it takes to remain faithful. When you look back on your life, the moments you'll be most proud of are the ones where you said no when everything in you screamed yes. Because in that no, there was a deeper yes, a yes to holiness, to truth, to purpose. There is no self-respect apart from self-control. There is no dignity in doing whatever you want. Real dignity comes from restraint, from humility, from obedience. You will never rise above your cravings until you learn to say, this may be what I feel, but it's not who I am. So I urge you, don't be ruled by your flesh. Don't let the culture shape your conscience. Respect yourself enough to deny yourself. Respect yourself enough to walk the narrow road, even when it's lone. Respect yourself enough to say, I belong to something greater than me, and I will not trade that for the fading pleasures of the world. Let me continue by showing you something the world has forgotten, that strength is not found in the gratification of the flesh, but in the denial of it. Strength is not proven by how much power you have over others, but by how much power you have over yourself. And that kind of strength, real strength, is forged in the quiet, hidden places of self-denial. You see, denying yourself is not about living a joyless, miserable existence. No, it is about becoming the kind of person who cannot be bought by temptation or swayed by pressure. It is about becoming solid, stable, and trustworthy, not just in the eyes of others, but in the eyes of God and in the secret judgment of your own heart. Every time you choose what is right instead of what is easy, you are building something inside yourself. You are laying the foundation of integrity, and that foundation is what holds up a life that won't collapse under pressure. But let me warn you, self-denial is not glamorous. It will not be celebrated. It will not be applauded. In fact, in most cases, it will cost you. It may cost you comfort, approval, and relationships, but it will give you something the world cannot offer, a clean conscience, and a soul at peace with its creator. That is strength. That is integrity. That is the kind of life that can look itself in the mirror without shame. Every day you are faced with choices, compromise or conviction, indulgence or obedience, comfort or the cross. And every day that you choose obedience, even in the smallest things, you are shaping your character. You are forming a soul that can withstand the fire, not because it's never been tested, but because it's been refined. Some of you are waiting for God to use you in great ways. You want to be trusted with influence, with ministry, with purpose. But why would God entrust anything valuable to a person who cannot deny themselves? You say you want to do big things for the kingdom, but you can't even control your tongue. You want to lead others, but you haven't led yourself. Don't look for greatness in the spotlight. It begins in the shadows, in the silence, in the daily discipline of self-denial. It is in those moments when no one is watching, and you choose to walk in integrity anyway, that is where strength is built. It's when you choose to pray instead of scroll, to serve instead of be served, to forgive when you have every reason to retaliate. That's strength, that's godliness, and that's what makes a man or woman truly respectable. Not the image they project, but the sacrifices they've made when no one was clapping. This world is obsessed with image. It rewards charm, charisma, and self-promotion. But those things don't build a life that endures. They build towers of sand that collapse when the waves come. Character is what and character is born through 1,000 daily acts of denial. Saying no to pride, to lust, to bitterness, to greed. You are not growing stronger when you always get what you want. You are growing stronger when you learn to say, I don't need it, I choose. Do you want to know why many people fall when trials come? Because they've built their lives on feeling, not on truth. They've practiced indulgence, not endurance. They've been trained to obey their appetites, so when temptation strikes, they have no muscle to resist. But the person who has practiced denial is ready. They've said no so many times that it's become a reflex. They've trained their hearts to value what lasts more than what satisfies for a moment. I know it's hard. I know you feel like giving in would be easier, and it would for a moment, but the cost of compromise always exceeds the pleasure it promises. You are not weak for struggling. You are weak if you stop resisting. The strength is not in never being tempted. It's in standing firm when you. Temptation is not proof of failure. It's the battlefield where strength is forged, and every time you deny yourself for the sake of what is right, you are not losing. You are winning. You are becoming the kind of person who can be trusted, the kind of person who can carry weight without breaking, the kind of person who will stand when others fall. If you want to be respected, not for your image, but for your life, then deny yourself. If you want to walk in confidence, not arrogance, but true confidence that comes from knowing you've obeyed, then deny yourself. If you want peace that this world cannot steal, joy that doesn't depend on circumstances, and strength that doesn't crumble under pressure, then deny yourself. You must stop believing the lie that your value comes from expressing every desire, acting on every feeling, or satisfying every craving. Your value comes from who you are becoming, through obedience, through sacrifice, through truth. If you want to build a life that lasts, you must build it on what is eternal, and what is eternal is only found by turning away from the fleeting. Denying yourself does not make you less human, it makes you more holy. It does not rob you of joy, it leads you to the only kind of joy that won't rot or fade. There is power in living a life where your flesh is not your master, where your soul answers to God, not your emotion, where your will is aligned with heaven, not dragged around by earth. So stop chasing the easy path. Stop believing that pleasure equals peace. Stop treating discipline like a prison when it is actually the door to freedom. When you deny yourself, you are not killing joy. You are killing what keeps you from it. You are not losing yourself. You are becoming who you were truly meant to be. The world will never understand this. It will call you strange. It will call you rigid. It will call you foolish. But on that day, when you stand before the one who sees every motive, every battle, every quiet moment of surrender, you will know it was worth it. You will know that the pain of self-denial was nothing compared to the glory of being found faithful. We don't often think of denying ourselves as an act of love, especially love toward ourselves, but I want to challenge that thinking. What if denying yourself isn't just a matter of obedience or spiritual discipline? What if it's actually one of the greatest ways you can honor your future, protect your calling, and love the person God is making you into? You see, every choice you make today, every no to sin, every yes to righteousness is shaping the man or woman you are becoming tomorrow. Your future self is not some distant, disconnected person. You are walking toward that person with every step you take. And one day you'll meet them. One day you'll look in the mirror and you'll either rejoice in who you've become or you'll grieve who you never chose to be. That's the reality. Now let's talk about this. Self-denial honors your future self. It's not punishment. It's preparation. It's not repression. It's refinement. It's not you missing out on life. It's you choosing the life that matters most, even when it means giving up what seems urgent or pleasurable right now. This is what the world cannot understand. The world says, live in the moment. Do what feels good now. But what feels good now might be the very thing that destroys you later. And listen, what feels painful now might be the very thing that saves you. You deny yourself today so you can rejoice tomorrow. You hold the line today so you don't cross the line tomorrow. You don't plant seeds and expect fruit in the same hour. You don't train for a marathon and expect to finish the race the first week. You don't build a house by wishing it into existence. You build it brick by brick, cut by cut, sweat by sweat. The same is true with character. The same is true with a holy life. The same is true with respect, real respect. And the cornerstone of that house is your daily decision to deny yourself for the sake of what is greater than yourself. You need to ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to become? Do you want to be a person who can be trusted? Then deny yourself the ease of lying. Do you want to be someone who leads others? Then deny yourself the laziness of comfort. Do you want to be pure, strong, and full of peace? Then deny yourself the momentary thrill of sin. And make no mistake, it is a battle. The flesh will scream. Your friends may not understand. The culture certainly won't applaud. But your future self, your sanctified self, your soul will thank you for every battle you fought and every temptation you resisted. Every decision matters. Let me speak directly to the younger ones among us. You are being told to live your truth and chase your dreams. But the truth is, if your dreams aren't submitted to God, they'll become your chains. If your truth isn't rooted in the truth, it will become your downfall. The most rebellious thing you can do in this world is not to follow your heart, but to follow Christ. To say no when the world says yes. To say yes to the hard road because you know it leads to life. There will come a day when the decisions you're making right now, what you look at, who you date, what you chase, will bear fruit. And I promise you this, sin always bears bitter fruit. Always. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will come. But if you walk in self-denial now, if you crucify the flesh, if you live for what is eternal, then the fruit will be righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. You won't look back with regret. You'll look back with gratitude. So start thinking long-term. The enemy wants you to focus on the moment, because if he can keep your eyes on the immediate, he can destroy your destiny. But God calls you to lift your eyes, to see beyond the moment, to see the crown on the other side of the cross, and to see that every hard decision you make for righteousness is a seed planted in eternity. Self-denial is not just about saying no to the bad. Sometimes it's about saying no to the good in order to say yes to the best. It's about priorities. It's about wisdom. It's about maturity. A child grabs whatever looks fun in the moment, but a mature person weighs what's lasting. And if you're gonna grow into maturity, if you're gonna walk with strength and dignity, you must learn to delay gratification. You must learn to say, this might be good, but it's not good for me. Not now, not in this way. You may be thinking, but I'll miss out. Yes, you might. But better to miss out on something fleeting than to miss the purpose God has laid out for you. Better to lose a moment of pleasure than to lose years of peace. Better to walk alone in obedience than to be surrounded in compromise. The road of self-denial is narrow, and few find it, because it's hard, but it leads to life. Wide is the road of indulgence. Many walk it. It's easy, but it leads to death. And that death starts long before the grave. It starts when your soul becomes numb, when your conscience grows quiet, when your sense of purpose gets buried under the weight of compromise. You were made for more than this world's approval. You were made for holiness. You were made to reflect the image of Christ, and Christ did not live for himself. He denied himself, even to the point of death, for the joy set before him. And now he calls you to walk in that same pattern. That's the life worth living. And so today, you must decide, will you serve your desires, or will you serve your destiny? Will you live for the moment, or will you live for the crown? Every time you deny yourself, you honor the person is forming in you. You say, I am more than my cravings. I am more than my urges. I am a temple of the Holy Spirit. I have been bought with a price. My life is not my own. That's not weakness. That's power. That's dignity. That's self-respect. And in the end, it's not about what you gave up. It's about what you gained. You gained strength. You gained peace. You gained the kind of character that cannot be shaken. And you gained the smile of, there is nothing greater than that. Let me tell you something that the modern mind struggles to understand. Obedience is not a burden, and submission is not weakness. In fact, they are the very evidence of a heart that is alive to God. A rebellious spirit might parade itself as strong, bold, even admirable in the eyes of this world, but true spiritual strength is proven in quiet submission to the will of the Father. And that submission, listen closely, requires a life of consistent self-denial. You cannot walk in obedience and still cling to your own will. You cannot serve two masters. Either your flesh will rule you, or your Lord will. But there is no in-between. Self-denial is the practical, daily, moment-by-moment decision to say, not my will, but yours be done. And that is not a statement made once in a dramatic moment of surrender. It is a posture, a lifestyle, a repeated confession of humility and dependence. Too often people want to follow Jesus on their terms. They want the benefits of his presence without the cost of his lordship. They want his peace without his path, his comfort without his commands, his blessings without his boundaries. But it does not work that way. To obey Christ is to deny yourself, because your nature will not naturally drift toward obedience. It will resist it. It will argue against it. It will try to redefine it. And if you are not actively denying yourself, you are drifting into disobedience, whether you realize it or not. Obedience is not a feeling, it is a decision. It is not something you do when you feel inspired, but something you commit to, because you've decided that his voice matters more than yours. The call of Christ is not, be yourself. It is follow me. and following him will cost you your pride, your preferences, and often your plans. But it will gain you his presence, and that dear soul is worth everything. People often ask, how do I grow in obedience? How do I walk in God's will? And I say begin with this. Stop asking what you want and start asking what he wants. Deny your voice until his voice becomes clearer. Deny your flesh until your spirit becomes stronger. Deny your desires until your heart starts beating in sync with his. That is how you learn to walk with him. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes obedience looks like shutting your mouth when everything in you wants to be heard. Sometimes it's forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. Sometimes it's walking away from an opportunity that would advance you, but compromise your conviction. And in all of these moments, the world will tell you you're weak, you're foolish, you're missing out. But heaven sees something entirely different. Heaven sees a soul that is growing, a soul that is submitting, a soul that is learning to love what is right more than what is evil. Obedience is not about rule following, it's about relationship. You don't deny yourself because God is a tyrant. You deny yourself because you love him. You deny yourself because you trust that he knows what's best, even when you don't. And trust me, he always does. He sees the end from the beginning. He sees what you cannot. He knows the path that leads to life and the path that leads to ruin. And sometimes the only way to be saved from destruction is to deny what you think is good, because God says it isn't. There is no obedience without trust, and there is no trust without self-denial. That's why we're called to walk by faith and not by sight. Your eyes will deceive you. Your heart will mislead you. Your feelings will betray you. But his word will never fail. That's why obedience matters. It anchors you. It guards you. It leads you through the fog of your own confusion into the clarity of his perfect will. I'm not telling you that obedience is easy. I'm telling you it's worth it. Every time you obey when it's hard, you're chiseling away the old self and revealing the new creation. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, is a victory in the war against the flesh. Every time you say, yes, Lord, instead of what about me, you're strengthening the muscle of your faith. You're growing in grace. You're becoming someone who reflects the holiness of God. Let's be honest, many people who claim to follow Christ still live by the old patterns. They attend church, sing songs, quote scripture, but the real question is this: are they obeying him? Are they denying themselves, taking up their cross, and following? Because if they aren't, then they aren't walking in discipleship. They're just spectators. God is not looking for spectators. He's looking for soldiers, for sons and daughters, who will put aside their comfort and walk the narrow road, even when it costs everything. You want to respect yourself? Then live in a way that you can respect. Live in a way that you won't have to apologize to your future self for. Live in a way that pleases the one who gave everything to redeem you. And that starts with obedience. It starts with saying no to self so you can say yes to God. It starts with laying down your rights so you can pick up his righteousness. Let me be clear. Obedience doesn't mean perfection. It means direction. You may stumble, you may fall, but the heart of the obedient is always turning back to the Father, always seeking to walk in the light, always repenting when it veers off course. That's the sign of a true disciple. Not that they never fall, but that they never stay down. Self-denial is not the death of joy. It is the path to deeper joy. The kind of joy the world cannot give and cannot take away. The joy of a clear conscience. The joy of knowing you're in the will of God. The joy of walking in purpose instead of wandering in confusion. You deny yourself, not because God wants to take your life, but because he wants to give you real life. So every time you choose obedience, even when it hurts, you are investing in that life. You're saying, Lord, I believe you, I trust you, I want you more than I want what I feel. That is worship, that is faith, that is love. And one day when you stand before him, you will not regret a single act of obedience, not one. You won't wish you had indulged more. You'll wish you had surrendered more, loved more, denied yourself more. Because in that moment, you'll see that every little sacrifice was building towards something eternal.
So keep obeying, keep denying yourself, keep walking that narrow road, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Let's talk plainly, because this needs to be said in a time when the world keeps telling you that love means indulging yourself, embracing your every impulse, and chasing every desire that rises in your heart. That is not love, that is deception, and if you follow it long enough, it will ruin your soul. The truth is, denying yourself is one of the clearest signs that you actually love yourself rightly, because true love doesn't just give you what you want, it gives you what you need. It doesn't always feel good, but it always does good. We've been told that loving yourself means pampering yourself, affirming yourself, feeding every craving, and removing every obstacle that stands in your way. But let me ask you something. If a man craves poison, do you hand it to him with a smile and call that love? If your child is reaching for fire, do you step aside and let them burn themselves because you don't want to stifle their freedom? Of course not. You love them by restraining them. You love them by denying them that which will hurt them. And so it is with your own soul. You cannot love yourself properly if you let your flesh rule your life. Your flesh does not want what is best for you. It wants what is easy. It wants what is pleasurable. It wants what is immediate. But it does not think of the cost. It does not care about your eternity. It does not care about your peace. The flesh is a liar. And every time you submit to it, you lose a little more of your strength, a little more of your dignity, a little more of the image of Christ that you were made to reflect. That's not love. That's slow destruction. When you deny yourself, when you say no to your flesh, when you silence the voice of selfishness, you're not being cruel to yourself. You're actually protecting your soul. You're guarding the very thing that matters most. You're saying, I will not let my feelings be my master. I will not let my impulses shape my destiny. I will not feed what will kill me. That is love. That is respect. That is maturity. We've turned love inward in a way that it was never meant to be. The greatest commandment is not love yourself with all your heart. It's love the Lord your God with all your heart. And from that you will begin to love others rightly. And yes, even yourself, but not in the way the world teaches. When your love is anchored in God, you begin to see yourself not as someone to be worshipped, but as someone to be shaped. Not someone who demands constant affirmation, but someone who desperately needs transformation. Do you want to respect yourself? Then stop feeding the parts of you that are killing your soul. Stop justifying your sin in the name of authenticity. Stop calling your bondage freedom just because it feels good. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. That's slavery to the flesh. True freedom is being set free from the power of sin so that you can walk in holiness and peace and truth. And that kind of freedom only comes through self-denial. When you learn to deny yourself, you become someone you can actually respect, not because you're flawless, but because you've made the hard decisions that no one else sees. You've turned away from temptation in the quiet. You've crucified pride in secret. You've chosen obedience when rebellion would have felt better in the moment. And you begin to walk with a sense of integrity that cannot be bought or faked or forced. That's real self-respect. That's real inner strength. That's what the world is missing. And that's what many so-called believers have forgotten. The truth is, you cannot separate love from holiness. You cannot separate peace from purity. And you cannot separate self-respect from self-denial. Because every time you say no to the flesh, you're saying yes to something greater. Yes to God's will. Yes to lasting peace. Yes to a life that bears fruit instead of regret. And I promise you this, no one who has ever denied themselves for the sake of Christ has looked back and wished they had done it differently. You see, when you deny yourself, you're investing in your soul. You're saying, I care about where I'm going. I care about who I'm becoming. I care about standing before my God one day and hearing, well done. That's love. That's what real self-care looks like. Not buying yourself another gift, not giving in to every craving, but caring for your soul in the deepest, most eternal sense. I know the road is narrow. I know the fight is hard, I know the world makes it look like you're missing out, but let me tell you something. When the storms come, the man who built his house on self-denial will still be standing. The one who built on indulgence, on emotion, on the shifting sand of cultural affirmation, he'll be swept away. You won't always see the fruit of your self-denial immediately, but it will come. It always does. Just like the slow work of a seed growing beneath the soil, obedience and sacrifice will bring a harvest in time. And one more thing, when you learn to deny yourself, you actually become more capable of loving others. You begin to live with your eyes off of yourself. You stop being ruled by your own needs and start becoming a vessel for something greater. You learn how to serve, how to listen, how to sacrifice, how to give when it costs you something. That's when you're really alive. That's when you start to experience the kind of love that changes the world, because it's not about you anymore. And strangely enough, when you stop living for yourself, that's when you become most fully who you were meant to be. So if you want to love yourself, then stop feeding your flesh and start feeding your spirit. Stop believing the lie that comfort is king. Start living for something eternal. Let God shape you. Let Him stretch you. Let Him strip away everything that keeps you from Him. It will hurt sometime, but it will heal you. And when you stand before the Lord on that final day, you won't say, I wish I had done more for myself. You'll say, thank you for giving me the grace to surrender. Thank you for teaching me how to love you, and in doing so, how to love myself the way you intend. And He will look at you with eyes of fire and say, you denied yourself for my sake. You walked the narrow road. You followed me.